Welcome everyone to today's webinar. We're just going to take about a minute to let everyone get settled in, and then we'll get underway. So again, thank you so much for taking your lunch break to learn more about our clinical psychology PsyD department program. And we're really looking forward to discussing the details of this program, a little bit about William James, but we'll just we'll wait another 30 seconds or so, make sure everyone's settled in, buckled up, and we'll get underway. Welcome, everyone. All right. Again, welcome everyone to today's webinar on our PsyD program here at William James College. Thank you so much for taking your time to learn more about that program. We can move to the next slide. My name is Josh Escala. I'll be your host for today. I work in the communications department here at William James, telling some of the great stories about the work that our faculty and staff do here and students. And we will be joined with Dr. Hanan Hashem, who is a PsyD department professor, and also just an overall great example of the work you can do in this field and exploring your passion. So I think she's a great representative of what this program can achieve. And also the expert of all experts, in my opinion, of admissions, Mario Merck, will also join us to discuss the admissions process. We can move to the next slide. A little bit about William James. We're located just outside of Boston. We're in Newton, and it puts us in a position that I think really allows us to offer a wide variety of field sites for students. We have over 350 across Massachusetts, and it's a really easy location to get to. And you know, the IT department is always making sure that the experience for everyone is equal, and so that people are online, people that are in person have the same experience at William James College. And our ed tech department is very helpful in making sure the same goes for if you have any troubleshooting, you'll always have someone there to help you through. And then finally, just talking a bit about the program, we always have programming that, you know, as a college that is exclusively about behavioral health and the various programs around that, everyone here is kind of a helper. Everyone here has the same passions, but we touch mental health in so many different ways. So, you know, the programming that we set up allows you to get a slice of kind of what everyone is doing. And it's a great community aspect here at the college. We can move to the next slide. Just a little bit about our overall degrees that we offer. Obviously, you're here for the PsyD program, but we also have our counseling department, our organizational leadership psychology department, our school psychology department, and our undergrad bachelor completions program. And so we have a wide variety of, as I said, you know, different certificates and other programs that really kind of express the different opportunities you can take and paths you can take in the field of behavioral health. We can move to the next slide. Our core values here at the college, these are across the board. These are the commitments that we as a college hold very as high priority for the programming that we do, the kind of goals and aspirations of the college, and making sure that the students that come through here have these same experiences throughout the program. So experiential education, it's a priority of our programs to make sure that in day one you are experiencing at a field site. You have that opportunity to go right into that opportunity. And I think that really helps with a lot of our faculty, and most of our faculty are practitioners themselves. And so when people come through the program, they're working with professors who have that same experience. And a lot of students will say they'll learn something, let's say in the classroom on Monday, and then apply it on their field site on Tuesday, or vice versa. So it's a great range of opportunities there, having a commitment to experiential education. Social responsibility, it's in our opinion that in order to promote mental health equitably. Everyone has to be considered, and diversity is certainly a goal of ours, inclusion, and making sure that our programming represents underserved communities within the field of mental health that have long, been underserved. And so our programming and the work we do here is about fostering and ensuring that everyone has consideration for the needs of specific populations. And personal growth, it's not just about the classes you're taking here, it's about the overall experience of making sure that we foster a supportive, challenging, and available learning environment that, we really care for professional development. Mentorship is a big part of the process of going through these programs, having that support, that having a small student to class ratio, making sure everyone has that same attention and support so that nobody is not considered in those situations. We can move to the next slide. And just a little bit of housekeeping. As you'll see at the bottom of your screen, there's a Q&A panel. If you click that and ask your question, there's going to be 2 opportunities to ask questions through this event. And the first one will be about halfway through and then towards the end. So if you have a question, please feel free to reach out in the chat and we will get to the questions. And we will also leave our contact information at the end. And so if you wake up in the middle of the night and you think, I have a question I didn't get to, it's over, it's not over, you can still reach out to us and we're happy to set up a call or a consultation or just answer your questions. We're always here to help you out in that regard. We can move to the next slide. And this is where I hand it off to the great Dr. Hanan Hashem, who will tell you more about the clinical psychology department.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate your introduction. Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well today. I hope that the sun is out where you are. I'm very excited to be here to be talking to you about the clinical PsyD program at WJC at William James College. My name is Dr. Hanan Hashem. Everyone calls me Dr. Hashem. I am an assistant professor at WJC. This is my 2nd year here. I'm also a faculty in the Asian mental health concentration, which we'll talk a little bit more about coming up. At WJC, I do several things. I teach several classes, including introduction to research methods, lifespan development, culture and diversity, history and systems, as well as adult psychopathology. And so I really, really enjoy teaching here at WJC. I enjoy teaching generally in the community as well. And in my classes, a lot of times we talk about how do we shift our understanding of what it means to be a psychologist outside of just the clinical room and bring it into communities where folks are don't necessarily have access to the clinical room. I also conduct a lot of research around trauma, identity, gender and racial issues, youth development, and I have a particular focus on Middle Eastern and North African populations, as well as American Muslim populations. As a professor at WJC, I also have the responsibility of advising a number of students. And so I have around 9 doctoral students that I advise, as well as around 10 doctoral projects that are a requirement for doctoral students to graduate. Thank you. We can go to the next slide. So about our faculty, we do have a pretty large program and a really diverse program. We have over 50 faculty members who are scholar practitioners and also researchers with really a broad range of clinical and research interests. And really, this is what brought me personally to WJC as a professor is the interest that I had in learning from the other faculty members. And I know that that's a common experience that other students have as well, is that whatever your research interests, your clinical interests are, you will find somebody at WJC who also does that work, not just teaches about it, but also does it in the community. And so there's a lot to learn from the faculty members, and then also, of course, from your peers, whether they're advanced peers or many of the peers that come into WJC often have clinical experience themselves. And so it makes for a very diverse learning experience and a very rich one as well. You can go to the next slide. So a little bit about our clinical PsyD program. It is American Psychological Association. It is accredited by the APA, which means that we follow the rules and standards of the American Psychological Association. And we recently renewed our accreditation. And so that means we are accredited for the next 10 years. There is a very close-knit culture and supportive learning environment. The classes that students take range between 10 to 20 students per class, and really depending on, the kind of, the classes that you're taking. Oftentimes you're taking classes with the same people, and you really just kind of end up creating really close friendships. There's a lot of community knowledge and community support that happens between students, sharing information about which classes to take, which professors to take it with, which clinical sites you can look out for, and which ones to kind of don't look out for a little bit. And so there's really a wonderful learning, supportive, collaborative environment at WJC, rather than a competitive environment where everyone's trying to get ahead. Is very much is the case that everyone's trying to support one another in their own training journey. In our clinical PsyD program, we focus on psychotherapy, assessment, supervision, and leadership. We have many assessment courses. Our psychotherapy courses range from different modalities, from psychodynamic to CBT to grief therapy. So it really ranges. We have a large faculty and diverse training experiences, and we'll talk a little bit more about the concentrations that that WJC offers, which is really unique to WJC. There's also the advising relationship. So every student that enters WJC is assigned an advisor, and the relationship that you have with your advisor is definitely going to depend on what your needs are and the way that the advisor operates. But every advisor is required to meet with their student at least once a semester to check in. And we are there to help with writing your resume, writing reference letters, figuring out classes, dealing with any issues that might come up in your graduate and professional experience. WJC, the PsyD program, also offers quite a few clinical seminars. So outside of the classroom, there's certain things that, for example, current events or current new ways of thinking about psychotherapy. So for example, we had a clinical seminar last year that was around decolonizing psychotherapy and what does that mean? And it was very well attended and a really rich conversation about how do we understand what it really means to be a healer as a psychologist. We also have A&P conferences that happen once a year. And so it's kind of a way for you to sit with your advisor and your supervisors from your clinical site and just kind of review the year. So every year there is a moment of reflection and evaluation of how the year went and things that you want to kind of make sure that you are keeping in mind for the next year. Within the clinical PsyD program, we have 134 credits, and then the doctoral project that is required for graduation, as well as the clinical experience in hours. We can go to the next slide. And so, like I said, the clinical experience is generally called field education. And so this is when you go into the community and you are doing the clinical work. And one thing about WJC is that you start your clinical work your first year, which is not something that you'll see in most programs. You really won't see in most programs across the country. And so we do have, the relationships that WJC has with the different sites around the New England area are pretty large and vast, diverse. We have, folks go in New Hampshire and Rhode Island and Massachusetts and all the areas around us. And they really range from private practice to hospitals to inpatient and outpatient settings to community health centers to schools to forensic sites. And so there's a really, really large and diverse set of kind of experiences. One thing that I've kind of found students wanting to work through is, I don't know there's so many things I want to do. How do I kind of focus on an interest, which I guarantee you is a really great problem to have, a great problem to have. So you can go to the next slide. And so the way that the years are split up with your clinical hours, so like I said, you start from your first year, first semester, you're already in the field, seeing how this, how it works. And so for the first year, students are required to complete 640 clinical hours, which includes, seeing patients, but also all the other support hours that goes into the clinical work. And as you can see, per year, the hour requirements increases. So as you gain more experience, the clinical hours do increase. One unique thing about WJC is that we have something called the APA consortium. And so typically in clinical psychology programs, doctoral programs, you have your practicum sites, your second, third, and fourth year, and then you apply for an internship, which happens through APA and requires a matching process. And so what WJC also offers as an alternative for folks is to do a consortium, both your fourth year and your fifth year, to kind of split up kind of those responsibilities. And what I really enjoy about this option is that we often have non-traditional students who have families or have another job or have other things kind of going on. And so it really allows for a lot of flexibility around the last part of your training at WJC. So we have quite a few concentrations within the department, and then we'll talk also about some of the college-wide, the entire college, the concentrations that any student in a WJC can have. But within the clinical psychology department, as you can see, we have quite a few concentrations. So if you decided, I am really interested in health psychology, or I am really interested in working with children and families, or forensic or neuropsychology, or I really care about education, actually, and I want to be able to come out of this degree being able to educate my community or teach at a university or in any kind of setting, WJC offers those specific tracks for folks who are interested in those concentrations. And so it is sometimes, it is incredibly helpful to be able to kind of specify your training in your doctoral program. To say, like, I want to make sure that by the end of this, I know that I want to work in forensic psychology settings, for example. So part of my training, I want to be intentional in taking certain classes and making sure that my DP is focused on this and that I'm gaining mentorship around these concentrations. You can go to the next slide. And so these are college-wide concentrations. So we talked about the clinical psychology department concentrations, and now these are concentrations that are available for anybody at WJC. And so as you can see, quite a diversity. There's quite diversity in the concentrations. And this is very unique to WJC, is that we do offer all of these specific training tracks for folks. We have the Latino mental health, African and Caribbean mental health, global mental health, Asian mental health, which is the concentration that I am a faculty and part of, the military and veteran psychology, and then also the LGBTQIA+ studies. All right, so I'm going to turn it back to Josh to field any of your questions, but I look forward to answering any questions that come up for you all as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hashem. Yeah, we're going to start with some questions. Again, if you have any, just at the bottom of your screen, you can enter the Q&A bubble and ask away. So the first question, is the PsyD program available online? The PsyD program is not available online. It is an in-person experience. So it's exclusively online. It's, the next question we have is, based on how classes are set up, would you say commuters have an easy experience, or is living near campus necessary for success?
Yeah, I can answer this question.
Sure.
So I will tell you that I have some students that are driving 2 hours to get to class, and I have students that live 5 minutes away from campus. And the experience, of course, is going to really be dependent on that, your relationship with driving and your relationship with commuting. But we do have quite a few students that drive a couple hours to get to classes. Typically what students do is they they kind of load up their classes to 2 days a week. And so they already know they're coming to campus. on Monday and Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then the other days they were able to find a clinical site or a field site that's near where they live. And so it kind of helps mitigate some of that. But I also know students that tried the commuting, the 2-hour commuting for the first year and said, I can't do this, and moved closer to WJC the year after.
You so much. We have questions flying in. So we have a question here. Are there fellowship and assistantship opportunities? How do you apply if so?
Yeah, I feel like that's maybe a question for Mario.
Yeah, we can, if you want to take that question now, Mario.
Certainly. Hello, everybody. I'm Mario Murga, Director of Admissions. So we have a number of scholarships that I'll go over. In terms of fellowships, different than a PhD program where you would come under the auspices of a faculty member and doing work with them. That's not the case here, but there are a couple of scholarships or in the likes of fellowships that occur for enrolled students, okay? They're funded by the Department of Education, and yes, so that exists, not in a large degree, but certainly that exists. There also exists the fact that you could aspire to become a TA. And the requirement will be to have taken the course and you have a connection to the faculty member for the course that you're interested in helping with in the subsequent semesters. So this is a relationship that you will develop, and Career Services will be publishing the availability of these TA positions. Hope that helps a little.
Thank you so much, Mario. So we have a question here regarding what kind of careers would a doctorate in clinical psychology open up, especially if you're pursuing a concentration in forensic psychology?
Yeah, I can take that question. So I mean, to answer the first part of the question, which I think is the exciting part about having a doctoral degree in clinical psychology is, and I don't say this lightly, you can really do anything that you want to do. And so especially kind of now and in this climate, in this market, people are looking for clinical psychologists. So if you wanted to go work for Meta, if you wanted to go work for Apple, if you wanted to work for the government, if you wanted to work for academia, if you wanted to open up your private practice, if you wanted to open your own consulting agency, if you wanted to, so you also asked specifically about forensic psychology, you could work for the state, you can work for a prison system, you can do clinical work within the system, you can do consultation, you can do assessments as well and evaluations. I know quite a few forensic psychologists that do evaluations for hospitals, and so they're constantly on call for evaluations that emergency rooms call them in for. And so there really is such a wide variety of things that you can do. You could be I can't remember the exact word, but somebody who is an expert testimony, right? To give expert testimony about what does it mean for somebody to have clinical depression and for somebody to have a personality disorder, et cetera, things like that. So it's really, really wide variety. And so one of the things that I do generally encourage people, but it's not a requirement, is to have kind of a sense of what it is that you might be interested in doing, because it then makes the training experience a little bit more specific to that. But you can also definitely learn along the way because there's so much that you don't know yet.
Yeah, I think the work that the forensics group does is fascinating, and we have great relationships with local courts, so students come in and work through that system as well, and a lot of the information is available online. So I would urge you to look more information up that way as well. So I have a question here. I'll lump a couple together related to concentrations. At what point do you declare a concentration? Is it required? Yeah, we can start with that.
Sure. Yeah, so I think I see the three concentration questions. So it's not required, so you don't have to pick a concentration. It is an option for you if you know that this is a specific type of training that you want. So not everybody picks concentration, and you can pick the concentration really at any point during it's favorable if it's in the beginning because there are requirements. So in order for you to be, for example, in the neuropsych concentration, you have to take certain classes. In order for you to be in the health psych concentration, you have to take certain classes and you have to have one of the health psychology professors on your DP. And so depending on the concentration, they have different requirements. For some of the concentrations, their requirements start pretty early on. And so you would be doing yourself a favor by picking one a little bit early, but it's not, people pick concentrations their second or third year as well.
And then somewhat related to that exactly. I just lost it. I'm sorry. They're coming in fast. They keep moving if you lose. Let me find it. I'm sorry.
That is okay. I think the question was, can you make your own concentration?
Yeah. Or do you get to choose your internship as well? Oh, no. Yeah. Do you get to your concentration?
Yeah. So, the concentrations are, managed by a faculty member. And so it's not something that you can create on your own. And so because you would need to there's already requirements in order to be part of a concentration. And so, unless you find a faculty member that is very interested in helping create that concentration that you're interested in, you are going to be you're going to be working with the concentrations that are offered. But, of course you can, if you wanted to just create your own training experience, you are definitely welcome to do that, given that we have such a diverse array of classes and field experiences. You might just not have the word concentration in front of it.
Great, thank you. Can you introduce a little bit more about trainings and assessment, example courses and practicums?
Sure, yeah. So one of the first assessment classes that everybody takes is cognitive assessment. And assessment classes are pretty heavy on assessment at WJC. I came from a program in my PhD program where I also have a master's in counseling from a different university, and I had most of my assessment experiences in my master's program. So WJC does really focus on assessments, or at least gives you the option. If you're not interested in assessments, you don't have to take all of those classes. And I have, students, and there's also there are assessment clinical sites in the field training. Those are typically favored for those who are in the neuropsych concentration, because it's part of the neuropsych training. And so if you are really interested in assessment, I would really recommend that you really look into the neuropsych concentration, because they have a lot more. We have a lot of information on our website about this. And if you have any questions about the neuropsych world at WJC, you can email Dr. Jason Osher, who is the head of the neuropsych concentration.
Thank you so much. Do you get to choose your internships, or are they assigned? And then related, how often do people typically stay at a practicum site?
Yeah, so practicum sites are assigned one per year. And so typically what happens, and students are going through this right now, is that there's the list of field sites that are given to students around around this time. And so students are going through those field sites and trying to make decisions about which ones that they want to apply to. They pick the ones that they want to apply to. They send their resume, they send a cover letter to each one. And then it's an interview process. And so they might hear, and so they send their applications in, and then there's an interview process. And so they might hear back from some sites. Some sites are better at, getting back to folks, which is the reality of applying to any job. Sometimes somebody responds to you and sometimes they don't. And then you have your list, right? So say you applied to 10 sites, you got interviews at 8 of them. And so in your mind, you rank them. This is the one that I would definitely want to go to. This is the second, third, and fourth. There's a day in the spring semester. I'm sorry. There's a day in the spring semester where sites are required to get back to everybody that they've interviewed. And so you have about a day to see who's going to get back to you and offer you a position, or offer you a internship spot at their site. And then you have generally a day or two to make a decision about which one that you want to go with, so that everybody eventually gets placed at different sites. I think actually it's less than a day. I believe it's just a couple hours that you have to make a decision. And so it is a year-long commitment that you're making to each site. So every year you could be at different sites. So one year you could work at a college counseling center. Another year you could work at an inpatient hospital, etc. Another year you can do a school, however, whatever experience that you're looking for. And there was another question within that I missed.
I suppose how long will people stay at the practicum site, and then that one. So I think we touched on those. And just in the interest of time, just want to make sure we give Mario enough time to talk about the admissions process, which I'm sure a lot of you are curious about. So we will get back to questions after that. We can move to the next slide, which will be a poll. And this is just what we'll ask where you are in your journey. I plan to begin graduate school, and we can launch the poll, and we'll see, and we can tailor our experience based on your decisions. All right, so it looks like the vast majority of you are eager to start in the fall of 2024, which is great. And we also have some 2025 and undecided, completely okay. We're happy to discuss any of the related opportunities that come with that. And with that being said, I'm happy to transition to Mario again. How you doing, Mario?
Excellent, very efficient. Thank you so much. And buenas tardes. Good afternoon, depending on your time zone, of course, and welcome to this portion of this webinar. You honor us with your interest to William James College. I was seeing some names that have started applications. I was seeing some names that I haven't seen starting applications, but I do understand this is what the poll is for. You know, you may be into the 16% who will apply for 2025. Right now, we're working on fall 2024, of course, and right there in red, you see where the deadlines are. So we have a priority deadline, December 6th, and a general deadline, January 10th. There's not a difference like there is in undergraduate between the two. Just for those of you who are ready to apply with all your materials completed and your portfolio ready, that you can be considered earlier rather than later. I do encourage the more as possible people to apply for the priority deadline so you get a decision earlier and you can make your plans into the short-term future. Also in red, online application, a very convenient online application that we have is fairly new. People are very pleased with it because it's very intuitive. Okay, so I do guarantee you that you will have a lot of ease into completing your application and to answering the questions that we need to know about you. As you know, a bachelor's degree from an accredited institution is necessary. Also, some people come with master's degrees, and that's fine. We like to see a GPA of 3.0 or higher if possible. The other bullet next is about academic transcripts. I cannot say enough about the need for the official transcripts that need to be received directly from your college. If you are still in college or university, we understand that. So we need an interim transcript from you that you can upload. But certainly if you completed your degree, might as well order it from your college. And if your college or university offers the option of an e-transcript, please do so. Those are much more efficient, as you may have found out from your other educational years. 3 letters of recommendations are necessary for them to arrive in the online modus of our application. That is nothing new. Most colleges require such a thing. Do prompt your recommenders in advance as to that you expect them to send us something in your behalf. There will be a batch of questions that they will answer online, and then they can upload a letter as well. Also very standard. There's an application, essay, or resume that you would need to upload. Very easy. Also, the prompt is right on our website, and the GREs are optional. I want to give you a caveat, however. There's a place in the application where you can enter the scores if you choose to, which is fine. But if you do enter the scores, you must send us the official score report. In other words, you need to order that from the ETS, okay? Invitation here. November 18th, we have a virtual open house that you're cordially invited to. Some of you may have already registered. Please You're free to go to our website under events and register for that one. It's on a Saturday. And then December 14th is the next virtual open house. And you will meet faculty members. You will meet the dean of students to know about what it is like to be a member of this community, financial aid. And again, you will have to put up with me. Admissions will be present. All right, let us move forward. And the next one, financial aid. I'm just speaking about the merit scholarships to begin with. Yes, the Clinical PsyD program has some merit scholarships. They are 20,000, excuse me, which is about 9% of the cost of the program of your tuition. And that you will receive on your letter of admissions. There's no specific application for it. Everybody is in the running for those. Those are college funded by WJC. College-wide scholarships. Also, if you qualify, the application online will prompt you to, if you so desire, to apply to the Serving the Mental Health Needs of the Underserved Scholarship. That one awards 2/3 of the tuition. Okay, there are qualifications for that, among them that you will serve such populations that are in need as well. Okay. There's a Cynthia Lucero Scholarship for those of you who have an interest in the Latino mental health concentration. That one has an application that is outside the admissions process, is for people who enroll. Okay, and this is one scholarship that awards $15,000 per year for that lucky student. Federal student loan programs do exist, and we're part of it. Unsubsidized federal Stafford loans, as well as the federal Grad Plus loans. Please make sure that you do your FAFSA, your free application for student aid. You do not need to wait to open an application account. Do so, as well as your transcripts. Do so, order those, do your FAFSA as early as possible. Our code, the WJC code, is GS in graduate 21636. Work study positions do exist. Those are communicated through Career Link, which is our career services website, internal website, and the financial aid office. Those will be arranged as to how you apply to those and how that is managed into the future as you continue to be a student at William James. So without any further ado, I'd like to move into the next set of questions. So I give it back to Josh.
Thank you so much, Mario. And for the next 10 or so minutes, we can finish up with some questions. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to, I see you already are. And yes, let's get underway with some more questions. So are there any students we could contact about this program to learn more?
Absolutely, I'm happy to answer that question. Yes, if you don't mind going to the website under admissions, and you will see a link to a page that leads you to student ambassadors. It's a wonderful page. It's been constructed in such a way that you can search by program, you can search by faculty member. I encourage you to look, by student specialty as well, by many ways that will be offered. And yes, you're encouraged to contact those students, and they'll be happy to email with you.
Great, thank you. How many students do you accept in a cohort typically?
About the cohorts, the incoming cohorts are large because we have such a large faculty body, and that's all we do, and we specialize in that. So our entering cohorts have been between 95 to about 100. Seldom gets to be 100, but about 95 is safe to tell you.
Right. What makes a strong application in your opinion?
Certainly, I can answer to that, and possibly Dr. Hashem can help with that as well. Certainly, look into the mission of the school to which you're applying. Look at the core values. Look at the commonality that you have with that college. We will seek to do the same should you be invited to an interview. Not everybody gets invited to be in an interview. But certainly, I think, the right match is important. The rest, of course, is intuitive, right? Academics is something taken very seriously here. We're a school of practitioners, yes. Most of our students come with some sort of experience, be it volunteer or something close to that. but yes, I think a person who really is like-minded, as William James College is, could be a strong applicant.
Dr. Hashem, do you have anything to add, or we can move to?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, as somebody who reads, a portion of the applications, I know that one thing that I certainly look for is a balance between identifying your own personal professional goals, as well as in what ways do you want to serve the people that you will be serving. And so being able to identify, like, these are the things that I feel like I want to be better at and learn and grow and get training in, as well as I have an interest in helping this population or serving this population in this way, and kind of making sure that you weave in both of those things in a balanced way.
Here's a quick one. Is research experience a must to get in?
No, it's not a must. No.
And I have a question. I think this is perfect for you. I think you have this experience. So what is your opinion is the difference between a PsyD and a PhD in clinical psychology?
Yeah, I can definitely answer that question as somebody who I have a PhD, and I teach in a PsyD program. The largest difference is going to be the focus on research versus the focus on clinical work. And so a PhD, a PhD stands for a doctor in philosophy. And so being philosophically minded is to also be research minded, and to really be kind of in the literature and knowing kind of what are the ways that people are thinking about these things within the literature. A PsyD is a doctor in psychology. And so you're more focused on just the field of psychology. And really, how do you become a psychologist and operate as a psychologist in your profession? And so there's a less focus on research and a much higher focus on clinical work. And so I tell this to all the PsyD students I work with. As a PsyD student, you have way more clinical you will have way more clinical experience than somebody with a PhD, and way more clinical training than somebody with a PhD. But then a person with a PhD would have way more research experience and be research minded than a PsyD.
Great, thank you so much. We have a couple questions related to a master's program. So one would be, is a master's program included within this? So do you qualify for a master's degree throughout this process of qualifying for your PsyD? And then the other one is just talking about the difference between a master's program and this. Why should they do a PsyD program instead of a master's program?
Yeah. As somebody who has, I also have a master's in psychology, and then I got my PhD in psychology. The difference is training, for sure, right? So there's a huge difference between doing 2 years of training versus doing 5 years of training, of extensive training. And so when you have a PsyD, or you go through a doctoral project, you're going through pretty extensive training, in a very intentional training in your field, as well as there are also some kind of limitations around what you can do with a master's versus with a doctoral degree. And one of the biggest things that comes up is testing and doing assessments. Master's degree programs, while you can get training in it, PsyD programs, you can actually open up your own practice where you're just doing assessments and kind of make that your main focus, where you wouldn't really be able to do that with master's programs. And so I would say those are the two main differences. And in terms of kind of an in-route master's, right? And so I definitely have some students that did not come in with a master's, but want to leave with a master's. And so there is a certain requirements that you have to fulfill. So there's certain classes that you will need to take in order to meet the requirement to get the master's. And so as long as you meet those requirements, and I don't want to misspeak, I feel like there's also potentially another requirement as well that I'm not 100% familiar with, but I imagine that would be on the website for folks to check out. But it is an option.
Great, thank you so much. I have a question that relates to both of you, if you have any thing to add. What are some tips for writing a strong personal statement for the application process?
I could answer that question very briefly, because we have forecasted this question coming to us often. So I do encourage you to go to the admissions page of this program, the Clinical PsyD program, and you will see exactly that. Tips on how to write your essay with some clues of what you should be looking at, and also how to ask for a recommendation. So yes, this is something that has been forecasted that would be needed. So please do go there because it's very succinctly explain what you should be looking for and in terms of writing your essay and those recommenders that you will need to request that they speak in your behalf.
Great, thank you. Can you talk a little bit about the process of how incoming graduate students are matched with an advisor?
Yeah, so I think largely that process has to do with who has space for advisees. And so with every professor is contracted to work with a certain number of advisees. And so just for example, last year I was contracted to work with an X amount, and I had that many advisees, but one of them graduated. And so then I had an empty spot. And so a student was assigned to me. And it really, it depends on different factors. There's a priority because there's also sometimes a shift in professors. So if a professor leaves and their students needed an advisor, then they're given priority, but everybody is matched. I don't think that there is a matching that happens through interests or anything like that. It's mostly with who has availability and who can take students, because the advising process is pretty standard.
Thank you. Mario, we just have someone that's looking to, if you could repeat the FAFSA code, please.
Certainly, GS and graduate 21636. And also, when you are doing your application for FAFSA, you enter the name of the school and that code will be appearing in front of you.
Great, thank you so much. We have a lot more questions, but just in the interest of time, we'd like to move forward and provide our contact information where you can reach out and provide any follow-up questions that you might have. So we can move on to the next slide. This is the contact information for Mario, for Hanan, and also our financial aid office. And it's also I urge you to check out our social media. I think it's a great opportunity to learn more about the experience of students, the accomplishments of faculty, and kind of an overall just experience of what a typical day or week looks like at William James College. I plug that not as someone that runs it, I swear I don't, but I think it's great content, and I think it's a great opportunity to learn more about anything you're interested in. And we can move to the next slide. And this is just where if Dr. Hashem or Mario have any parting words before we conclude our webinar. Do you have anything you'd like to say?
Just quickly, just wishing you the best of luck in your application for graduate school journey.
Yes. And honestly, as somebody who's currently in the field, working with folks in the field, we need more people in the field. So please do, whether you apply here, whether you apply other places, really invest in your training. I also want to say it is a long journey, but the impact that you can do with a doctorate degree in clinical psychology is quite vast. And so just as a reminder of the work that still needs to be done. And so good luck, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you for taking the time to learn more about our program. And again, please follow up if you have any questions, and we look forward to seeing you here at the college. Have a great rest of your day.
Goodbye.